John, you were originally scheduled to fight Stipe Miocic at UFC 295, but then you had the pectoral injury. How disappointed were you that you had to push the fight back?
I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed. At this age, injuries could be a death sentence. But I have a very strong support base right away. My coaches were very positive, very optimistic about a healthy return, and I had just really great trainers around me. Got me on a great physical therapy program right away, and I knew that we would be back, especially with the people that I have on my team. I knew we'd be back. So.
How'd you approach the challenge of rehab after surgery?
Physical therapy, obviously. I don't think I did it like to the best of my abilities. I definitely gained a lot of excess weight and stuff like that. My mindset was just lubricated joints. I felt like they healed faster, so I gained a bunch of weight. But I also stayed doing therapy and rebuilding my strength, rebuilding my chest and my shoulders and things like that. And today I feel phenomenal, completely healed and recovered.
What's been the main benefit, though, of the downtime that you had?
I would say it's just maturing and understanding my body even more as an athlete. I would say appreciating recovery more than I used to. Just taking recovery more seriously. I feel like I've adopted better training methods. I feel like I train smarter now than I did in the past, and those are the things that I took away.
I saw you post on social media that your life has been a roller coaster, but you find yourself in a great rhythm in life right now.
Yeah, my life has been a little bit of a roller coaster. More good than bad, that's for sure. And right now I feel like I'm in a great rhythm. I'm 37 years old. Family's good. I have a strong team around me. More confident than ever. More secure in what my role is, and as a citizen and as an athlete, I just feel like I have it pretty well figured out. I'm still constantly learning, but I like where I am in life right now.
You also had some time before you moved up to heavyweight to consider that. What was that time like for you?
Moving up to heavyweight, it took me 3 years, and that was great. It was a great time away from the limelight, just getting to work on character and who are you as a man, who are you as a person outside of my UFC affiliation, and that was great. Just to fall in love with yourself in a way, and learn to appreciate yourself. Really, really beautiful time. Really beautiful time for me. I got to gain weight slowly and not feel rushed and be able to kind of compete on your own terms, and that's a great feeling for any athlete.
What made you decide that you didn't want to just continue dominating light heavyweight forever, that you wanted to move up?
I'm getting older, and things just naturally hurt a little bit more, and things just suck a little bit more. I just thought to myself, I have the height, I have the frame to be a heavyweight, and why not do it, So, and another thing, I felt like my fights at light heavyweight were getting closer, and I didn't really have too many really big names in the future to look forward to. I thought the big paydays that I had always dreamt about and the higher level of competition would be at heavyweight, and so now we're here.
So besides the weight, what's the biggest difference between Jon Jones, the light heavyweight, and Jon Jones, the heavyweight?
I would say my punching power has grown tremendously. My awareness in the cage is at an all-time high. I've been doing mixed martial arts now for, I don't know, maybe close to 15 years. And I feel like a 15-year student. I just really know what I'm doing now at this point, and it feels good.
Were there ever any moments of doubt that this might not work out? It might not be as simple as it was at light heavyweight?
No, I never had any doubts that I couldn't compete as a heavyweight. I trained against heavyweight for the majority of my career, and I've always done well. I've always been a little bit faster, and I feel like I'm equally as strong. And my coach, Greg Jackson, he always told me, he said, John, you're going to have a much easier time as a heavyweight than light heavyweights.
Now, why did he think so?
Typically, a lot of heavyweights don't train as hard as the lighter guys, and they try to pace themselves. They try to, manage their energy sources and things like that, where the lighter guys, they come ripped and ready to go 25 minutes every time. So, you know, and even though I've gained weight, I still have the mentality and the mindset of a light heavyweight. You know, I like to be in great shape. I like to feel fast. I like to be very versatile. And I think that's what makes me different than a lot of the guys in the heavyweight division.
Then you go in and you beat Cyril Gahn. What was your reaction to actually doing it?
Yeah, beating Cyril Gahn was an amazing memory and experience. I remember one of the first major feelings I had was a little bit of disappointment. You know, I remember sitting on top of the cage, celebrating my victory, taking a deep breath and thinking, man, that was fast. That was fast. It was 3 years leading up to that. A lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of teamwork. And for it to be over in 2 minutes and 4 seconds, I kind of felt robbed in a way. Yeah. But next emotion I felt was just gratefulness that I didn't get hurt and that I did my job, what I came to do, and did it flawlessly. So mixed emotions, bittersweet.
How did it compare to winning a light heavyweight championship?
It felt just as good, but it felt slightly better. You know, at the same time, just because it had been 3 years and I had so many questions of how I would compete after 3 years off. And that was the best part of it, I guess, just being able to answer all those questions in one night.
Let's go back to 2008, when you first began this journey. How did your wildest dreams as a fighter then compare to what you've actually accomplished now?
I didn't really understand how to dream back then. You know, I didn't understand all that was possible. I knew that I wanted to compete. And then going from wanting to compete changed to wanting to be the best. And it went from that to like wanting to be just the absolute greatest now. And what I see today is that everything's possible in this world for those who don't quit on themselves or their dreams. I've learned to reach higher and higher with our dreams, to become more ridiculous with our dreams, because they're all possible.
By 2011 and 2012, I mean, you were on just an incredible roll. I mean, it was Tiger Woods, 2000, 2001, the greatest golf swing ever. It was Michael Jordan in the 90s. What stands out to you about that period in your career?
It was just a really special time. I remember feeling as if I was in the right time, you know, the right place at the right time. I believe that combat is a lot about timing, and you know, you can get two fighters together 1 year and a fight will go this way, and 2 years later it can be a completely different performance. And I believe that I joined the UFC at a magnificent time. The light heavyweight division was just stacked with celebrities and superstars. Some made in the UFC, some made before the UFC in Pride. And you know, the team that I had at the time, I felt like we were just a little bit more advanced than the sport. Between my wrestling being so fresh right out of college and having a coach in Greg Jackson who was just a real thinker. I had the perfect storm.
When you look back now, which fights do you see as the defining ones in your career? If you had to pick two.
Two defining moments in my career, I would say, was when I beat Stephan Bonnar. I believe that was my second fight in the UFC, which was a pretty big increase to go to Stephan Bonnar after Andre Guzmão. Stephan was in the Ultimate Fighter finale. He was very famous. Him and Forrest Griffin had a legendary fight that brought up tons of new fans to the UFC. And it was the first time I competed against someone that everyone in my hometown knew who he was. Okay. And so I had to deal with a lot of doubt and from my surroundings. People just saying, who do you think you are to even be in the UFC? And no way in hell he's going to beat Stephan Bonnar and things like that. And I had to really get into psychology at that point in my career, realizing that a normal kid from a small town could do extraordinary things. And sure enough, I faced Stephan Bonnar and I ended up dominating him. And the night that I had going back to my hotel room, I realized that I could compete with UFC fighters. And then the next fight that I would say that really changed the way I looked at the sport was when I won my first world championship against Mauricio Shogun Rua. Rua was somebody that I admired and looked up to and studied for years and years, his whole Pride career. And to dominate him the way that I did, you know, to take one of my idols and make him a rival, it just unleashed this self-belief inside of me where I knew I would be beating more famous people in the future.
Sometimes all-time great fighters are also defined by the champions that they beat. Ali had Frazier. For you, who is that?
Who would be my Frazier if I was Ali? I would say there's two guys, three guys actually. Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans really elevated me as an athlete. I knew that I had to bring something new to beat him. A guy named Alexander Gustafsson. He's a guy that I fought twice. The first time it was absolute war, and the second time I came in better form and destroyed him. And then Daniel Cormier is another fighter who molded my career in a way. I don't think my story would be the same without him. Yeah, we took a lot of years off of each other's lives, I feel like. But we also elevated each other as competitors and as athletes forever.
When you sit down with your grandchildren one day and you say, let me show you what Grandpa did when he was a young man, and you got one fight you can show them, which fight would that be?
One fight. One fight. You know, if I could show my grandkids one fight, I think it would be the Alexander Gustafsson one fight. I was taken down in round one. I bled. I had to dig incredibly deep to win. And some people to this day can say that I lost that fight. But it was just a good fight, despite who you're rooting for. It was combat, hand-to-hand combat at its finest. That's a fight that I'm really proud of.
There's one loss on your record, the Matt Hamill fight, because of the 12-6 elbow. Where do you place that loss?
You know, I don't really consider it a loss because I kicked his ass. Let's call it what it is. Yeah. Excuse my language. I don't consider it a loss. At the time that I fought Matt Hamill, I was very new to the sport. I joined the UFC after 9 months of training MMA. So there were so many things that I just didn't know. I never had anyone sit me down and explain the rule set to me, you know, in detail. So I was out there freestyling, you know. So I lost on a rule that I didn't even know existed. Okay. And today that rule is not there anymore. And, you know, 12-6 elbows are completely legal. Right. Dana White comes out all the time and says that he believes that I wasn't supposed to, you know, that I'm supposed to be an undefeated fighter. And that's the way that I feel as well. I'm hoping one day Dana and the guys can get with the commission and get that reversed. That'd be really nice for me.
Do you remember your reaction when you found out that the 12-6 elbow now is legal?
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember my reaction when I found out that you know, when I lost that night, I actually cried backstage. You know, it was absolutely devastating to me. I had always had this vision in my mind and in my heart that that I would do MMA right. You know, there's so many things that I failed on in life. There were so many things that I wasn't good at growing up. And with the UFC, I felt like, okay, I'm an adult. My life isn't in my control now. Like, you know, what I eat is my control. Everything about my life now is I have control. And man, I wanted to have a perfect MMA career. That was always my dream. So it was devastating to lose in that way. Fast forward years, 12-6 elbow is legal. It's very exciting. Yeah. It's very exciting. To get that reversed would be very exciting. But now I'm embracing the 12-6 elbow. I train it constantly. I'm excited to possibly be one of the first athletes to use it in the arena now that it's legal. Yeah. And be one of the few athletes to lose to it, right? So it's kind of a interesting thing. I mean, if I can get a knockout with the 12-6 elbow, that'd be really, really sweet.
Would you feel like that would be justification?
Yeah,
that would be
in some weird way. Yeah. In some weird way, just for everything to come full circle with that loss and the way that I finish. Yeah, it'd be great.
You mentioned Dana White's support. What has that meant? The fact that he's been outspoken in saying that should be corrected. Yeah,
well, Dana White, he has a huge influence on the UFC fans, all of the MMA fans. He has a huge influence over everyone. And if anyone knows what they're talking about, it's Dana. You know, he's been here since the very beginning. And it means a lot to have his support. Words doesn't explain what it means to have him advocating for me these days.